Welcome to Climate at Your Service, a Climate Europe 2 podcast where we delve into the world of climate services. I'm your host, Dr. Stacey New, climate scientist from the Met Office in the UK, and I'm thrilled to guide you through this exploration of how climate information can empower decision making and action across different sectors and communities around the world. As we explored in our last episode, Climate Europe 2 works on advancing the standardisation of climate services to ensure they are reliable, comparable, and accessible for decision makers and communities. But what role can art play in this? Can creativity and science come together to inspire better understanding, communication, and solutions to the climate challenges we face? Today we have a fascinating episode for you where we will explore the intersection of art and climate services. We're speaking with Anna Pinter, creator of the Milena Project, which recently won Climate Europe 2's Climatised Art Science Service Open Call. We'll talk about Anna's project's innovative use of art to communicate climate science, how it aligns with the standardisation work of Climate Europe 2, and we'll explore an exciting initiative, the Travelling Climate Action Roadshow, which was held over the summer. So, hello Anna, I hope you're well.
Hello Stacey.
First of all, many congratulations on winning the Open Call.
Thank you.
Could you start by telling us a little bit about the project, what inspired it, and how it connects art and science?
Sure. So Milena is an interactive installation, digital installation that uses the data from climate services and combines them with the long tradition of poetry inspired by natural events. And its purpose or its aim is actually to represent or to revoke this role of the fortune teller that we had before. So by combining this a great amount of data with AI and the possibilities it can do in a really short time, we created a little digital oracle that can tell us how the future climate conditions could be regarding to our own choices.
Wow, that sounds amazing. A little digital oracle. I could just imagine it. So one of the most rewarding aspects of the job I do in climate services is having that kind of creative freedom to explore different ways of engaging and communicating with different communities. And I guess much like an artist, we can think of kind of out of the box ways of engaging with people, exactly like you've done with the oracle. I wonder if you could kind of share some insights into your journey as an artist. What sparked that interest in working in climate change, climate services? Was there a specific insight or climate impact that might have inspired you? So it'd be really great to kind of get a sense of that within your mind.
To be direct, I don't think that there is more important or relevant topic than the climate change that we are facing. And I really believe this responsibility of an artist to tackle the issues that affect human lives and their relations. So for me, I have to say it was a little play of my own interest in science besides my artistic practice, and let's say a play of circumstances that happened that I was involved in a couple of art and science projects and really found myself comfortable in this kind of environment. And I had an opportunity really to meet great people from completely different fields of my own practice who were very inspiring for me. And one of them, and probably the most important that I would say an influence, is Professor Dr. Vladimir Djurdjevic from the Faculty of Physics and Institute for Climatology and Meteorology from Belgrade. We collaborated on one lecture performance on climate change several years ago. And I really have to say that he shifted my perspective. First of all, he's probably one of the best science communicators that I met in my life. And this kind of power that he has to spark the interest in the listener towards very difficult and challenging topics. And then, on the other hand, to give them some kind of hopeful perspective on it and to, let's say, unleash them with this really proactive and positive energy, not leaving them depressed, how usually that can happen with the climate change topics. It was, for me, it was really changing, and it directed, I think, my interest and my professional career in a great sense.
That's amazing to hear that you've been inspired by a scientist.
Yeah, and there's another effect. He was also my mentor during this Climate Europe 2 project with Milena, and his support in understanding climate services was very essential for me.
Yeah, Vladimir is such a he's a great communicator, like you said. And I think it's quite easy for scientists to kind of have that doom and gloom kind of when you talk about climate change. It's kind of always the negative aspects and how do you empower kind of society to make change? And do you think art has a place in kind of empowering public and communities to make a change and make a difference?
Well, for me, it's a really complex question, and it's really personal since it's about also the reasons why I chosen to be an artist. But to be honest, I cannot say that I believe in the power of art to be a revolutionary force in the literal sense that we think when we say revolution. But on the other hand, I believe it's very transformative and it can make changes, but on the long terms, by introducing people to maybe some concepts or ideas in a really slow and gradual way. And this kind of process is also something that reminds me on climate change processes. They're also kind of a slow and gradual, but they're transformative, not just for our environments, but also for our lives and the ways that we live our lives. And I believe that understanding this kind of time, space, perspectives on science and on art, there is a lot of similarity to it. I don't think that only artists think out of the box. I really believe scientists do it too, also in their own creative ways. And this is the bridge that can connect us, and it should connect us. Because what art does, unlike maybe science discourses, it introduces human sensual aspects to some topics. And this affect on the senses is very powerful. I find it very powerful in our epistemic processes. I believe that some knowledges get stick to us if we experience them with our whole body apparatus, not just with our cognitive processes.
Definitely, I think I definitely agree with that. I like the your kind of analogy of the slow moving processes. In my head, I was just imagining like a glacier moving down the valley very very slowly, and yeah, I definitely get that with art, and I think it has that kind of, like you said, that power to evoke emotions, whereas like looking at data for a lot of people doesn't. Like for me, like looking at numbers doesn't evoke emotion, but when you look at art or listen to music or something, then it does. And in the previous Climate Europe in Climate Europe project, we brought in the art and science through an installation called Bell House, where we were translating the data into sound, and it really kind of resonated with a lot of people. And I think with your project, definitely is doing that, and just reading about it definitely kind of I felt the emotion through it. Could you kind of maybe elaborate on maybe what specific messages or feelings that you're hoping to communicate with the Milena project? Maybe what you've already experienced from people using it.
What I have noticed, for example, there is a several challenges in communicating climate change issues, and one of them is, I think it's when you live in a very urban area and you're surrounded by all these devices that bring you comforts during some extraordinary weather or climate events. So you tend not to notice them as important ones, protected by them. Well, people who live outside of this highly developed social places, of course, they live more related to natural cycluses, and they tend to feel them and sense them more intensive, and to create towards them specific relationship, I think. And I really wanted to evoke the memory of this relationship with the nature. It's the climate and the weather and many other aspects. They really affect our lives, our health, our habits, the way we organize or structure our lives. It really affects our food, like many things. And that's why, I mean, it's really important to become aware of this connection with it. And it's a kind of a reciprocal relationship, so it's basically how we treat it, it will treat us back. And sometimes we tend to think about this motherly character of the nature, right? That is also related to the archetypes of the many human civilizations. And but the truth is that nature is not. It doesn't feel this mother feeling towards us. It's actually very indifferent. And I wanted to also to somehow try to deconstruct these stereotypes about how we understand this, and maybe to destabilize these power relations between human and nature, because what we see from now on, our tendencies towards it was to colonize it, absolutely. And now it just shows it's a huge bite for a human with its resistance.
That's a really nice way of putting that, actually, kind of like the Mother Earth and trying to better understand that and kind of the resistance. So it's just, yeah, very poetic. So I think I mentioned at the beginning that one of the initiatives of Climate Europe 2 was the Travelling Climate Action Roadshow, which really does aim to kind of bring together the art and science to promote climate services, but also raise the awareness about climate change. And I think if I'm right, the roadshow toured 10 different locations around Southeast Europe over the past summer and engaged with a number of different communities and had lots of different immersive art installations and kind of this poetic dialogue, and kind of brought the science and art to the public so you could have discussion and kind of encourage those conversations that blend science and creative arts, and like I said, kind of to inspire action and to expand the climate services user community. Can you tell us a little bit about your involvement in the roadshow, and how your project was perceived, and just to expand a little bit more about that on the roadshow?
I was just one of the participators or one of the artist authors on the roadshow. So I was not really involved in organization, but I can also say something about it because I was really impressed how all the thing is envisioned and realizing. So it is called Climate Europe 2 Roadshow, and it's a traveling art and science exhibition through the area of the Balkans, or this part of Southeast Europe. And I know that I think until 2026, there's going to be, I think, over 10 places visited with this traveling exhibition. But by now, this year, only first out of 10 has been already done in Skopje, Sarajevo, Tirana, Kotor, and Rijeka. I was in Rijeka with the Climate Europe 2 Roadshow, and it was amazing because there would be set up camp with this really cute van, which is called Climate Capsule. And it is actually a little stage for, I would call it a para-theatrical show. And people would watch this little performance, this little show in the van. And then there would be the little tent with the Milena. And what I really loved about this encounter with the audience was that almost all generations that from Milena's databases were interacting with it, because we've been using, and I will maybe tell something more about it, data from Climate Interactive, Copernicus Climate Interactive Atlas that holds data since 1950s. So it was like over 70 years span, generational encounters. And it turned out to be what I also often desire with my project. Turned out to be a family event, because a little, like, different generations from the same family would come, and then they would interact with the installation, and then they would exchange their experiences and the results of their interaction. And that is what I really dreamed of people sharing how they feel about it. But I maybe would say that the most exciting event that happened during the roadshow in Rijeka happened on this event, which is called Climate Poetry Evening. And it is organized by Ljiljana Ilic, a poetess from Belgrade, and Vladimir also was involved as one of the hosts. And there was this old lady from Rijeka, the local one, and she wanted to share her poem about the skies that she wrote when she was a young woman, long time ago. And the poem was in Italian. So she was reading the poem in Italian and translating it in our languages. And then she was, while she was describing this extraordinary color of the skies that she remembers, since she was a scientist, she was also explaining us the natural events that caused this specific color of the sky. And with all these things happening with her little speech, it was really like a little magical live performance that happened during that evening. And this kind of intimate sharing made us a really caring and loving community for that evening, during that event.
Cool. I was wondering, I've heard you speak about the art and science in such a positive light, and it sounds amazing. But I wonder if there were any kind of barriers that you came across in the formation of the project. Anything you found difficult? You spoke about using Copernicus to get the data. Were there any issues in kind of accessing data? Maybe I wonder if you could explore that a little bit.
Of course, this project was, let's say, completely out of my comfort zone. I'm initially a stage director, and I usually work with real people. And this time, it was something that it was completely new approach to me. But on the other hand, there is this connection that I see in digital technologies. It's performative potential, and it's this relationship between digital realms and our us human, that it's also a process of translation, I think. And there is a certain identification and also a mimetic process between us and machines. It's also very inspiring for me most of the time. And the challenge is, of course, what the biggest challenge was, this educational part that I had to go through, including education in or literacy in using climate services. But I wouldn't say that it was a problem or some kind of difficulty for me. Au contraire, I really find exciting these spaces when I find myself in, because I was privileged enough, I think, to be surrounded by experts and people that I really trust, and I could rely on their expertise and also their goodwill and really supportive and motivational behavior towards the whole project. So it was, for me, it was a true joy, to be honest. Yeah, there are always some technical issues that you face, because technology is, sometimes it has its own magical ways of behaviors. But let's say it was only fun, I think, to work with.
That's really great to hear. I'm glad you had like a really good experience along the way as well. I often find that in climate services, I probably do more learning than I do kind of teaching.
But they're actually great designs. For example, when I saw Copernicus Climate Interactive Atlas, I was amazed by its design. It's very user friendly, but the thing is, it has so many different data from so many different fields that I mean the whole climate system is so complex, and its beauty comes out of its complexity, I think. And uh, in this kind of having this maybe leading or mentoring figure in the process could really relieve, or let's say speed up some learning processes. But yeah, it's actually really fun, and it's really easy to use it, and it's great. I mean, it's really good designed platform also. So I think that the people who created them already, how to say, did the half job for all of us, in the meaning that you don't really need to how to say, it's not hard to use it. Anyone, I think, can use it.
Yeah, definitely. We use it a lot in the work we do in the Met Office, and there are also like other really great tools, very similar, kind of like the IPCC Atlas. I don't know if you've ever used that, but tools like that exist and allow kind of everyone to be able to use it and understand it. And I think that's definitely the role climate services plays, an important role in producing these tools and these platforms that are easy to use and to understand. And like you've just described, Copernicus is a really great example of that. And kind of on that kind of complexity, climate science, people often are a bit scared, or people just shoot numbers at you or stuff, and it can be a little bit like whoa. But I think, yeah, and I think art and climate services has a really important role in kind of translating that information, like you said, not only in language but also into really nice, usable, friendly ways. And I think your project is a really good example of that. So I was just wondering whether you see your project as that kind of tool for raising awareness and creating that dialogue between communities, and maybe even influencing policy decisions later on down in the line, because communicating with all the stakeholders from children right through to those decision makers is really important. And do you think art and like your project has a place in kind of influencing maybe policy later on?
I haven't thought about it actually, to be honest, and I'm not sure what. I mean, yeah, that would be great. I would love that, but I'm just not sure that maybe in long term. I don't know. Maybe in the long term. I think we all need to put the efforts. I don't think that one artist or one art piece or one art discipline even can really influence. But it can be a part of the change, and we should definitely work on it every day and in every practice that we are applying.
Definitely, yeah. I agree. Don't think it takes one person. It kind of takes that community to make a difference and influence. So I think this project can sit amongst many others to kind of make that difference and maybe influence policy later on down the line.
I think honestly, to my, how to say, I think that intimacy is the most powerful politics that we can take, and that's why art can be relevant, because art communicates with the intimate part of the human being, and by activating these intimate policies we can maybe influence wider social policies and then go to bigger structures. But I think that the right way for the arts is this one: talk to the intimate.
So do you think your project can inspire other artists maybe to take the leap into working with scientists? I don't know, like, because you've had such a positive kind of experience working with a range of different scientists, and we've spoken about Vladimir. Do you think maybe you can kind of spread the message that maybe working with scientists is a good thing to do in the future?
Yeah, I hope so. And also, message to the scientists that artists are also great partners in this kind of projects. And it's, I don't know, it's really fun because we are on the same side of the cause. And I think uniting our skills and the knowledge we have, we can only benefit, and our audiences as well.
Definitely. I think, yeah, definitely through this project, so Climate Europe really has kind of embraced working with different sectors and communities, but definitely artists. We've had such an amazing experience with a range of artists from, working with you, and I mentioned Bell House, but also we've had artists kind of scribe our conferences, and that's been the most kind of inspiring parts in a way, is watching artists interpret the science and seeing a different perspective on how we communicate. And yeah, I love that part of the project. And yeah, if we can work with more artists in the future, definitely it makes us better as scientists, for sure. So yeah, no, thank you to you for coming on board and working with us. So what's next for Milena? Like, do you have any future plans for it? Are you gonna maybe look at other climate related aspects? Would you like to tell the audience a little bit more about your future plans?
Yeah, well, actually, I'm working on a really exciting project. I'm actually researching bogs lately, or the wetlands in general, but bogs specifically. And this one bog in Belgrade, which is on the bank side of the Danube River, but it's very specific because it doesn't get its water from the river, but from the underwater sources. And it has been a natural resort for hundreds of protected species of different animals and plants as well. Yeah, the wetlands are now my main obsession. So I read a lot of texts, not just scientific ones, but also bell literature or poetry about it. And yeah, what I really love about them, it's that they're actually, despite when you say a bog, you usually have this image of something very dirty and dangerous, but they're actually great purifiers. And this paradox in how we perceive them and what is actually their function is something that I want to open up and to maybe, I don't know, motivate people to not, let's say, go deeper into something things, or discover what is behind their appearance or how they're represented in our normative relationships. And this specific bog, it is called Barareva. It's actually, it faced some challenges in the last couple of years, and there is a group of amazing activists protecting the bog. So they wanted to build a little recreational park on the damaged part of the bog that was damaged a couple of years ago, and by human factor, of course. And this sound performance that should come out of this, my research, should, I would like to be a first gift to their natural park, to their park in the bog.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Yeah, no, I wonder if I can tempt you to maybe. So I got a background in wildfire, and often it's kind of similar to what you're saying on how people perceive kind of the bogs as kind of these dirty things. And when you mention fire, people often perceive fire as bad, something bad. But you have good fire, so fire is rejuvenating and helps seeds kind of open up. So you've got these Sorossus cones and things. I'll stop talking about wildfire, but it could go on for a while. But yeah, it's kind of similar to what you're saying. It's like it's around that communication. How do you change those perceptions of something kind of inherently people think is bad, and how do you change that into something that's they view it as beautiful or good? And I definitely think science and art have a can come together to do that, communicate that.
But that's, I think that's something that it's affecting a lot of science discourses. This kind of how we communicate these discourses, or how the media represent them. And they're always somehow surrounded by this skepticism or disbelief or theory of conspiracies, or this very problematic information people find online, and then they question scientific discourses from completely ignorant background. And so what I see is that people would maybe rather go to see a show or read a poem or see an exhibition about some scientific topic than to sit and read what scientists really have to tell about it. So yeah, I think that could be, also great solution for this issue.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think it brings us back to kind of the standardization. The main aim of Climate Europe is to advance standardization of climate services, which sounds quite complex and technical. And it's something new to me, even as a scientist. It's quite yes, scary in a way. Oh, standardization, like it's definitely kind of alien to me. So we know that climate standards play an important role in ensuring the reliability of climate services and data and tools. And I think the challenge is to help people understand, including scientists, the importance of kind of standardization without making it sound technical and kind of, people run away from it. In your opinion, I know we've touched on this a little bit, how can art make kind of these complex concepts such as standardization, but also other complex climate science, how can art make it more accessible and engaging? Do you have kind of ideas on how we can do that?
Maybe it's not an answer that you expect about it, but I would say that how art should, or how, climate and art, how they should now respond, actually, how we should think about it. It's not so much about the formats or the topics or the problems that we tackle, but rather the production conditions that we apply during the production of our artwork. And I think that in general, we should maybe think more about how we make more climate friendly art, not in how we communicate it, but what is our practical approach to it, in the sense that we should really try to be more sustainable, more low waste or even no waste oriented with our practice. To give an example, first we and then the other ones, because yeah, that is what is, I think, really relevant for the real change.
Yeah, definitely. That's really insightful. Thank you. And I kind of feel like we've barely scratched the surface on the Millennia Project in a way. You talked a lot about kind of that, the important collaboration between art and science. But it was great to hear about your project, and came out from an open call from Climate Europe, and it's really great to see kind of that success. And I think it just highlights that increasing recognition of the art and science collaborations, and I definitely see like these continuing in the future, because I think your project and what you said today has just kind of emphasized how important that collaboration is, and that we really do need to kind of explore this further in the future. Before we wrap up with the podcast, is there anything else you'd like to share with the listeners about your work, the project, and maybe how they can engage with it?
Yeah, well, for now, we've been working here in Belgrade, but I know that Milena will visit many other places, so I can only invite you, if you're living in one of those places, to come and to say hi.
Thank you. I'll definitely be coming to visit because I want to try it out for myself. So thank you, Anna, for joining us today and providing those valuable insights into the world of art and science, and that important role art can play in helping scientists to communicate complex issues such as standardization and other climate change impacts. And thank you to you, our listeners, for tuning into this episode of Climate Europe 2 podcast. And don't forget to check out the Millennia Project, and you can read about it in more detail and learn more about the Climate Europe 2 work, including the roadshow and where we're going to visit next, on our website. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and don't forget to subscribe for more insightful discussions on climate services.